Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, David here, and welcome back to another Atlus SEGA news video. Now, as I told you guys in previous episodes for news coverage, SEGA Sammy, which is the financial branch of the SEGA group, which owns SEGA and Atlus, and the Western branches and everything, they just dropped one of their latest investors report, or their fiscal year report for the fiscal year which just ended for them. And as always with these freaking meetings, I always have a mark in my calendar because there's always interesting information to come out of these releases, whether it's announcements in and of itself, release window for specific games, their plans for the future, or sales numbers for games that just came out. All stuff that interest my dumb ass, okay? If you guys don't know me, name's David. I'm trying to run this YouTube channel to be the #1 place of information for all type of Atlus news specifically. I do talk about SEGA quite a bit nowadays, and I cover other JRPGs as well. So if you're into that kind of stuff, please consider subscribing. What we have in store today is the first bit information from this latest report by SEGA, which tells us that they are confirming to investors that 4 games minimum, so they said or more, are confirmed to be coming before fiscal year 2027 ends, which means next year. If you round it up, that's pretty much 4 games next year. And that is for their mainstay IPs. So for SEGA, what does that mean? For SEGA, that means Sonic the Hedgehog, that means Persona from Atlus, and it means Like a Dragon / Yakuza. Those are like their main IPs that I'm comfortable telling you guys that they're mainstay IPs. Obviously, there's other big IPs that SEGA owns that could be considered that, but they're so old and untouched that it's like, ugh. For example, A Crazy Taxi. That was big back in the Dreamcast days and the arcade days. Jet Set Radio, same thing. Dangerous territory to consider those mainstay IPs, but I don't have like a specific definition to give you guys about what SEGA and Atlus considers mainstay IPs. So if I'm going by logic, I would say Sonic, Like a Dragon, Yakuza, and Persona, okay? Now, 4 games minimum, that leaves us with a lot of room for predictions and for what's going to happen next. And the first thing that I would like us to look at is Anniversaries, because for 2026, if you guys don't know, there is a ton of SEGA and Atlus Anniversaries. As you can see here, reported by SEGA Informant, which is a dope Twitter page that I like to follow. They cover a lot of SEGA stuff and niche stuff too, so I highly recommend you guys check them out. My sources are always linked in the video description. And if you look at the list of anniversaries for Atlus and SEGA next year, the one that comes to mind first for me is Persona. I made a whole ass video talking about what Atlus is going to do for the Persona 30th. I definitely expect one of the 4 main games to be a Persona 30th project. We'll talk about that in a second. But they have nicher stuff like a Sakura Wars, which, hey, I would like to see that, but that's certainly not a mainstay IP. And, you know, Alex Kidd, 40th anniversary and everything. So what stands out in that list is obviously Sonic 35th anniversary and Persona 30th. So being a huge Atlus fan, let me start with Persona. So for Persona, I'm very confident here. Persona 4 Revival. Persona 4 Revival, we got a confirmation of the release window in the latest report, not this one which came out November 7th, but the previous one, and that confirmed that the earliest that Revival could come out is March 2026. So I fully expect Persona 4 Revival to release next year, probably late next year is my bet, alongside the beginning of 30th of Persona. So that is definitely, in my book, one of the projects that we should expect for these 4 mainstay IPs that SEGA confirmed to investors. Now, there's other stuff that we can speculate on, but the next thing that I need to talk about is the Sonic the Hedgehog 30th anniversary. Now, alongside that report, the news came out that the Switch 2 version for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds is coming out December 4th. Very excited for that. The performance sheets and everything came out for that, and boy oh boy, it looks amazing. The game's gonna run at like very high resolution and frame rate, docked and handheld. I am stoked to check it out because I got a review code for the Switch version, playing it on Switch 2. I like to play these kart racers with the wifey, so it was really rough. I was excited to see that. But when it comes to the mainstay IP that I'm expecting, or the game that I should expect from Sonic next year, I have 2 things that I would like to predict. The #1 thing is going to be something that people have been predicting and asking for a very long time. But I think it certainly would be a very cool anniversary project. You see, with Sega and Sonic, the IP, you can play pretty much all the classic games on all platforms. They used to do compilation on all platforms. I grew up with the Nintendo GameCube, and I didn't have the Mega Collection back then, which has a bunch of the classic games. I had the Sonic Gems collection. So just on the GameCube itself, there's 2 different collections that you could get for Sonic the Hedgehog games. That's crazy. If you look at nowadays, you have the arcade collection, you have the Sega archived classics on the eShop. You have a bunch of games that you can purchase to play these classic games. But 2 of the most beloved Sonic the Hedgehog games that have not been re-released in a decent way are the adventure games. So a very dope collection of Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 remastered would be awesome, and I think would do very well for the 30th anniversary of Sonic. So that is the first prediction, and kind of a big wish of mine, because I am not as big into Sonic nowadays anymore. Like the 2D games and everything, I don't do those anymore. The racing games for Sonic I like. The PS3 games, I played those, and I was really looking forward to Cross Worlds, and I decided to wait for the Switch 2 version, but that seemed to be very, very good. So I'm now getting more curious with the IP again, and so an adventure games collection would be very cool to me, because again, I played Adventure 2 and Adventure 1 actually on GameCube growing up, and I spent so much time on Adventure 2 battle with the Cow Garden and everything. So I would like to replay these games, and boy oh boy, I know I'm not alone. So you guys should ask Sega politely to bring these games back. But another thing that would be probably a more safe prediction is a sequel to Sonic Frontiers. So Frontiers just celebrated its anniversary, and Sonic Frontiers did really well for Sega. Sales wise, it did really well. Critics thought it was decent, and most people are in agreement that it's a decent Sonic game, like a big sandbox game. Most people were like, you know what, it's a solid 8 out of 10, and we're excited to see what's next. And they're taking their time for what's next. So I think a Sonic Frontiers sequel, or the next big 3D Sonic title in an open zone type of setting, would definitely work with the 35th anniversary as well. So out of these 4 confirmed titles, I know that there's going to be a Sonic 35th project and Persona 4 Revival. I think there's a third prediction that we can definitely confirm as well, which is, we kind of guess, is from Like a Dragon Yakuza with Stranger Than Heaven, which seems to be a brand new IP by RGG Studio. I do think it being a new IP by RGG would be considered a mainstay IP, just because it's very much similar to Yakuza and Like a Dragon, and those games are now very big. Stranger Than Heaven, same thing as Revival. This game has the same release window as Persona 4 Revival. So I do think that Stranger Than Heaven is one of the 4 games that is going to get released next year, or very early 2027. But I'm expecting it next year for that one. The 4th game and final game is the one that's hard to predict, and I worked with Sega before on a bunch of occasions. I'm very fortunate to have people that I can talk to at Sega and Atlus, and they're great. They've been very nice to me over the last 6 years of me being on YouTube, and that's why I feel the need to drop this prediction of mine, which is absolutely crazy, whenever I can, because I want them to hear it, and I want them to know that I want it, and that is, I would say that's not a prediction. I do have a legit prediction for the 4th pick, but let me put this dream out there, and I want you guys to tell me what's your dream prediction for a Sega and Atlus game in the comment section of this video. But for me, it would be a remake of Skies of Arcadia, which has to be the best Sega game, or it's right up there with the GOATs like a freaking Shin Megami Tensei 4 or Persona 5 Royal or Yakuza 0. It's almost there. It's like an almost perfect game in my opinion. So Skies of Arcadia, a remake that doesn't change the combat, that changes a bunch of crap. Like, this game aged. It aged a lot. Visually speaking, you could do a lot of cool things. Gameplay-wise, quality of life stuff. I have 10,000 ideas, Sega. So if you want a list, I can write a freaking dictionary of ideas for that game. Bring it back, please. That being said, Skies of Arcadia, unfortunately, is everything but a mainstay IP for Sega. It's not something that they've worked on. The last release that we got is on GameCube with Skies of Arcadia Legends. They're still trademarking the IP rights to other companies. I just dropped the little shorts of Figgiz, which is a brand of buy fistful figures of little figure collectibles that I own. Like you can see them for Shin Megami Tensei 5 here. You can use David Cast JRPGs as a code as well for your purchases on figures.com to save 5% and support me. But they just dropped a wave of figures for Skies of Arcadia, which, let me show y'all, they're really, really cool. I'm grabbing anything that I can get for Skies of Arcadia, but these are, you know, the figures that I'm talking about. I made a short if you want to see the whole wave. I am a huge Skies of Arcadia fan, so I was excited to see a new item, anything new Skies of Arcadia come out in 2025, so that is exciting stuff, and I would like to see it come back, but that is my crazy prediction. What do you guys want to see when it comes to, like, no barriers and predict anything? Okay, for the fourth prediction of something that could absolutely happen, I'm not as confident for that one as the previous three for one good reason. It's because I'm not sure if these games are still considered mainstay IP, and that would be some of the IPs that Sega confirmed to be reviving in their initiative to bring back older IPs. So yes, I'm talking about Golden Axe, I'm talking about Jet Set Radio, Streets of Rage, Crazy Taxi. I definitely think Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio could fit the bill. In that report, I did look at the chart of games that are confirmed by Sega and when they are aiming to release those. And for all the IP revival games that I listed, they're all listed for in or after fiscal year 2026. So they could be one of these mainstay IPs, or maybe they're not, so we'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen. But that fourth slot is definitely harder to predict, especially since they said like 4 or more, so it could be more. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little update here from the report that just came out. Thank you so much for watching, and once again, if you want to stay up to date on all things Sega and Atlus, you're at the right place. Please consider subscribing, and don't forget to ring that notification bell. Have a good day, y'all. Thank you for watching. Bye.